Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hesham Tillawi. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen, and happy belated Mardi Gras, and I hope you are handling the fasting, the Lent season. You're holding up pretty good. It's only, the second day now? So I hope everyone is will be able to hold on to their promises. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to tackle two different subjects. One will deal with the economy. President Obama spoke in front of Congress, and he said many things. We're going to try to simplify some of these things that he spoke about for you. And of course, we do welcome your phone calls. We're not going to have a guest on the show, on the program tonight. We will have you instead as our guest. So keep those phone ringing, or those phones ringing, or those phone lines ringing. And then also, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to discuss an issue that is taking place in Israel. A television station in Israel played what they thought was something funny, something probably cute. They disrespected Jesus and the Blessed Mother. We're going to show you that later on in the program, what they had done. And they got away with it. And a week later, which would have been like Tuesday of this week, they disrespected another religion, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. When they did that to Jesus and his mother, actually we did speak about this. Sometimes I get confused where I speak of things on the radio or on television. But we discussed that mostly it was Muslims who came out in defense of Jesus and his mother. And some people thought, why would Muslims defend Jesus and his mother? Well, that's because they're ignorant of the Muslim religion. As a matter of fact, Islam does look, probably Catholics and Muslims, they very much believe in the virgin birth. I don't know, sometimes other Christians or so-called Christians, they probably question the way Jesus came to this world. We're going to talk about that in details in the second half hour. But at first, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about the economy. President Obama said that the deficit this year will be $1.75 trillion. And the budget is going to be $3.6 billion. What does that mean? And is that a lot of money? What is $1 trillion? Maybe you do understand what $1,000 is, because probably most of you may have $1,000 left, probably. But what is $1 trillion? Well, let's first say what $1 million first. Maybe you will understand what $1 million is. $1 million is 1,000,000. So if you have a $1,000 bill and you have 1,000 of those, then you are a millionaire. Now, if you have 1,000 millions, then you are a billionaire. And if you do have 1,000 billions, then I guess you are a trillionaire, if there is such a thing. $1 trillion, of course, you're still confused what the heck $1 trillion is, that we are going to have a deficit of $1 trillion. What $1 trillion deficit means, that's, imagine if your salary is $1,000 a month, and your expenses are $1,500 a month. Well, you have $500 deficit. You're short $500. So we are going to be short $1.75 trillion. Now, to make you understand what $1 trillion is, if you did not understand my math of the thousands, millions, and 1,000 billions to get to $1 trillion, let's imagine that you get paid, let's say $1,000 a second. You would love that if you do. If you get paid $1,000 a second and you do work 40 hours a week, consider that you work every week of the year, making $1,000 a second, working 40 hours a week, is going to take you about 31,000 years to make $1 trillion. Now, if you do happen to actually make $1,000 a second every time of your life, every minute of your life, and every second of your life, it'll probably be about 31 years before you make $1 trillion. You still don't understand? Okay. Let's stack $1,000 bills on top of each other all the way. It will be about 67.9 miles high. Confused? That's all right, because $1 trillion is a lot of money that your mind cannot even begin to understand what $1 trillion is. Well, our budget is 3.6 trillion, money that we don't even have. Now, what is Obama wanting to do? We're not going to get into the details of it, but ladies and gentlemen, you know, today, the lady who delivers my mail, we were discussing the recovery plan, and she said he's bankrupting the country. I said, no, he did not. Because when he was hired, he went in the store, and he did not have anything in that store. He received a country that was bankrupted already. He's trying to manage this. Is he going to succeed? We don't know. The problem is much, much bigger than Obama, bigger than America, bigger than the whole world. Is everybody going to be affected by it? Yes, it will. And those merchants, especially those of you right here in Lafayette, Louisiana, you know that people did not have the kind of money they had last year during Mardi Gras. Your sales were probably half of what they were a year ago. I've talked to many people who normally Mardi Gras Day is probably one of their biggest day of the whole year. Almost every one of them said about half of what it was last year. People don't have the money. And that's exactly what it's going to be from now until it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse before it turns around. Eventually it will turn around. But let's not play politics with what is going on. Let's not play politics with the economy. You know, you have the president spoke, and we have a little clip to kind of the highlights of his speech. And then our governor, Bobby Jindal, he did the rebuttal for the Republicans. And I wish he would not have to done that, because it was horrible what Governor Jindal did. If he was hoping that people will think of him as a national figure, I think he blew it. He blew it that night when he did the rebuttal for the Republicans. You know, I don't know how he did or how he got the role to actually do the rebuttal, but he probably sat in his room or his office at the governor's mansion wondering, what can I tell people? What can I tell them about what the Democrats see? He was supposed to bring in the Republicans' point of view. Well, he couldn't. What is he going to tell the country? That we bankrupted the store? That we created all these wars overseas? What was he going to say about world peace? What was he going to say about health care? What is he going to say about your salaries and wages? What is he going to say about unemployment? What is he going to say about Wall Street? What is he going to say about schools? What is he going to say about anything? So he really could not say anything about anything, and he ended up saying something about himself. He sounded like he's on a campaign trail for 2012. That's exactly what he sounded like. It was pathetic. And, you know, when he mentioned, you know, he's going to tell you a story about his dad. And when his dad called him, he was talking to him and when he was little and saying, Bobby? No, his dad did not call him Bobby. You know, his real name is, I don't know if I'm going to butcher this name, but it's Piyush, P-I-Y-U-S-H. That's his real name. So I don't think his dad called him Bobby. He probably called him Piyush. But that's a different story. We're not going to get hung up on that. But, ladies and gentlemen, you know, a lot of people, and I'm getting, a lot of people ask me about the stimulus checks that they're going to be receiving. Well, there's not going to be any stimulus checks. It's going to be a recovery plan, and most of you now know exactly that you're not going to be getting the checks that you got last year, which I was very disappointed, because I think people need that big chunk of money at one time so they can get things done. Maybe they are behind on credit cards. Maybe they are behind on their car payments. Maybe they are behind on their college tuition or whatever. That money, when you get it as one lump sum, I think it helps. But the way it's going to work out is probably about $7 to $13 per week if you receive weekly checks. If you receive a check every 2 weeks, well, it's going to be double that. And then if you receive a monthly check, it's going to be exactly that. He's going to give maximum $400 per person, $800 per couple who are working and receiving paychecks, and that money is going to come out, it's going to be, what it is, it's tax refund. So if you take home, let's say $1,000 a month, and they take out a couple of $100 for federal withholding, well, you're going to get, your federal withholding is going to be reduced. So you're going to see a little bit of an increase on your paychecks every week. Well, you go to McDonald's, you spend the $7, you're not going to feel it. And with the inflation, the way it is, and it's going to be, you're going to be in the hole, because believe it or not, when we start doing these programs that we are talking about doing with money that we don't have, healthcare is going to cost us over $300 billion that we don't have, so we are mortgaging that for the next 10 years that you're going to have to pay for in the next 10 years, because that's how much it's going to cost. But imagine, only $300 billion it would take care of health care in this country. I'm thinking that we spend about $1 trillion in Iraq. We could have probably taken care of every problem, health, education, peace in the world. Imagine what $1 trillion would do if it takes only $300 billion for everybody to be covered health-wise. We could have done that. We could have done a lot with $1 trillion. I told you how much $1 trillion, if you stack those $1,000 bills, it'll be about 67.9 miles high. That's how much. Sometimes you try to think how these politicians in Washington think. You know, we have all kind of wars on all kind of things. War on poverty. We have more people in the country. War on drugs. You've heard that before. We have a lot more drugs than what we did before we waged war on drugs. I know you're waiting for war on terrorism. Guess what? We have a lot more war and a lot more terrorism in the country, in the world. So what is war on terrorism? What Obama is basically going to do, he's going to have to clean up the mess that George Bush, the drunken George Bush, you probably, now we've talked about George Bush drinking in the Oval Office and being drunk on many, many occasions, sometimes in public. But his psychiatrist just came out with a book. He's telling us that he was drunk most of the times in the White House. It was a problem for his aides to actually talk to him when he's sober. It's out. It's published. 8 years. We had a drunken guy in the Oval Office taking care of business. What do you expect? For those of you who have alcoholics in your homes, you know what those alcoholics did to your home. Now you know why George Bush did what he did in the country. Bankrupted it, and by the way, we talked about the companies that George Bush had bankrupted. You know, I don't think we need to put George Bush on trial. I think we need to put the people around George Bush on trial for hiding that fact from the American people. Okay, for the highlights of what Barack Obama, or Obama's economic plan, we're going to play a little clip, and right after it, it's going to be followed by our governor, Piyush Jindal, with his rebuttal of basically it sounded like he wants to be president in 2012. Push the button.
You don't need to hear another list of statistics to know that our economy is in crisis, because you live it every day. It's the worry you wake up with and the source of sleepless nights. It's the job you thought you'd retire from but now have lost. The business you built your dreams upon that's now hanging by a thread. The college acceptance letter your child had to put back in the envelope. The impact of this recession is real, and it is everywhere. But while our economy may be weakened and our confidence shaken, though we are living through difficult and uncertain times, tonight I want every American to know this: we will rebuild, we will recover, and the United States of America will emerge stronger than before. As soon as I took office, I asked this Congress to send me a recovery plan by President's Day that would put people back to work and put money in their pockets. Not because I believe in bigger government. I don't. Not because I'm not mindful of the massive debt we've inherited. I am. I called for action because the failure to do so would have cost more jobs and caused more hardship. In fact, a failure to act would have worsened our long-term deficit by assuring weak economic growth for years. And that's why I pushed for quick action. And tonight I am grateful that this Congress delivered, and pleased to say that the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act is now law. Thanks to our recovery plan, we will double this nation's supply of renewable energy in the next 3 years. We've also made the largest investment in basic research funding in American history, an investment that will spur not only new discoveries in energy, but breakthroughs in medicine and science and technology. We will soon lay down thousands of miles of power lines that can carry new energy to cities and towns across this country. It's the largest investment ever in preventive care, because that's one of the best ways to keep our people healthy and our costs under control. This budget builds on these reforms. It includes a historic commitment to comprehensive health care reform, a down payment on the principle that we must have quality, affordable health care for every American. It's a commitment that's paid for in part by efficiencies in our system that are long overdue. And it's a step we must take if we hope to bring down our deficit. Already we've made historic investment in education through the Economic Recovery Plan. We've dramatically expanded early childhood education, and will continue to improve its quality, because we know that the most formative learning comes in those first years of life. We've made college affordable for nearly 7 million more students. 7 million. And we have provided the resources necessary to prevent painful cuts and teacher layoffs that would set back our children's progress. But we know that our schools don't just need more resources, they need more reform. And that is why this budget creates new incentives for teacher performance, pathways for advancement, and rewards for success. We'll invest in innovative programs that are already helping schools meet high standards and close achievement gaps. And we will expand our commitment to charter schools. It is our responsibility as lawmakers and as educators to make the system work. But it is the responsibility of every citizen to participate in it. So tonight I ask every American to commit to at least 1 year or more of higher education or career training. This can be a community college or a 4-year school, vocational training or an apprenticeship.
Good evening and happy Mardi Gras. I'm Bobby Jindal, Governor of Louisiana. Tonight, we witnessed a great moment in the history of our republic, in the very chamber where Congress once voted to abolish slavery. Our first African-American president stepped forward to address this.
All right, well, it's frozen, technical difficulties. Okay, let's go back to the camera. Okay, well, I guess you're not going to hear Governor Jindal speak. Probably most of you heard it, but he did not. I really wanted you to hear what he said and what came after that. So if we can get that, just let me know and cue me. And if it does the same thing, then we will move on. So just see if you can cue it. But ladies and gentlemen, you know, welcome to socialism, because that's exactly what we are headed to. But unfortunately, that's probably the only way we can do it, because capitalism had proven failure. We explained to you how we make money. And last week with Paul Craig Robert, okay, are we going to go back to it? Let's see. No. Okay, let's just forget about the let's forget about the DVD for right now, and we'll move on to the next segment when we get to it. So hopefully you would have that DVD working properly for the next segment. But ladies and gentlemen, what we are doing, you know, what Governor Jindal did, it's not really important. It was pathetic, it was silly, it was stupid, and it did not, you know, one of the things he mentioned that Republicans will be Obama's strongest partners. Guess what? No Republicans have voted for his recovery plan. 3 of them were going to vote, and the leadership told them, do not vote. And they did not. So, what we are headed towards, ladies and gentlemen, is socialism. We are going to have more government, bigger government. There is no two-way about it. It's going to happen. Socialism that did not work in the Soviet Union and in the Eastern Bloc, we are going to bring it, we are going to try it, because that's the only way. And you will see that it will happen. It will take place. Now, for those of you who disagree with Obama, come up with something different, because you remember this, you know, he inherited this thing. What the Republicans did is very much what Obama is doing, bailing out. This bailout thing is not an Obama thing. It's a Republican thing. It's the drunken guy thing. Let's go to the phones with Tom on line 1. Tom.
Yeah, hi. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, look, I know there's a time delay, but I was listening to you, and I just turned it down about socialism and that kind of thing. And I want to say that I believe that the problem is unchecked greed. I don't think that we're headed towards central planning like they had in the Soviet Union. I think the government obviously, I think, has to step in at this point. But I wanted to go back also and comment on Bush. I was reading something about Louis XVI, the king before the French Revolution, and it said that he was indolent and incurious. And that reminds me of George Bush. He was lazy, and he just was intellectually incurious about things. I don't know if you remember the part where he was making a joke about looking for weapons of mass destruction in the Oval Office. He was looking behind the curtains, and he was making a joke about it, but a lot of people were dying. People who lived over in Iraq, innocent victims and all that, because they happened to live in that country, also Americans, and war is a terrible thing. But because he was a draft dodger, I mean, he had no conception of what it was like to be in combat. So, and then two more points I want to make, that Obama's wife today was speaking in front of the EPA, and she said that there would be a new focus on science, they would focus on science. There was a new day in the EPA. I'm very happy about that. And finally, I want to say that Obama doesn't walk on water. He's a politician, and the lobbyists are in control of Washington. But at least this guy can put two sentences together, and he's articulate. I mean, 8 years of listening to the other guy, I mean, it was insane. But I enjoy your program, and I'll hang up and listen to your comments off the air. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I would not have said it better myself. I agree with everything he said. Now, maybe we will not get to socialism the way it was in the Soviet Union, but I really think, Tom mentioned central government. I don't see any other way but central government. It's going to have, but when that happens, we're going to see states who want to probably not be in that central government. We're going to have chaos. So be ready, get ready, and it's not going to be... See, mainstream media, they don't tell you anything like that. They don't want to scare you. They don't want to push your buttons, but we do, because you need to understand, you need to know what's going on. You need to know what's going on. September 15th of 2008, it was a disaster in the making. They did not tell you about it. We told you about it. We told you many things that mainstream media sometimes took them about 3 or 4 years to tell you the same thing we told you. When we were telling you no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq in 2003, some of you called us traitors. You had to hear it from the president himself that there were no weapons of mass destruction. So believe what we say, because we give it to you like it is. We don't have salaries. I don't have editors behind me saying don't say this and don't say that. Only you, and you can tell us how we're doing. Let's go to Freedom on line 2. Freedom, welcome to the program.
Oh, yes, Dr. Tillawi?
Yes, sir.
The reason I call is I want to thank you for bringing up certain subjects tonight. But look, how do you feel about the so-called fairness doctrine coming back, or when somebody like Mr. Bauer get on Israel and blame all the trouble in the Middle East on the Palestinians?
I love it.
Maybe somebody like you might have a chance to get an hour to rebut what he says and tell the people the truth.
Let me tell you something.
You think that the fairness doctrine should come back?
I love the fairness doctrine. I wish it would come back, because you see, when you have companies like Clear Channels and Fox Network and all these, look at us here in this market. I did not listen to KVOL Freedom until you mentioned it to me, and then I started listening to it. My God.
I tell you why I called, because Michael Savage is on. He calls himself Savage, but you do know he's Jewish.
Exactly.
And I mean, this guy is just ridiculous, and we need somebody who could get up there and who could answer all the misinformation he's giving people and the propaganda. When you only have one side of a story, Dr. Tillawi, you only get the propaganda. You know what I mean?
Yes. You know what? I know about Michael Savage long time ago. I did not really listen to him. I only listened to things that I see on the internet about him. And I may have listened the Savage Report. I don't think KPL have him on, except they use on Sundays the Savage Report. But when you told me about KVOL, I started listening to it.
KVOL have this guy on.
It is worse than KPL.
Yeah. You see,
and I thought KPL.
People like you and I, when I'm on my radio show, I have to try to correct what Sean Hannity says and what Rush Limbaugh says with my meager audience. You see, it's not the same audience who's been listening to all the lies, especially like Mr. Bauer, when he gets on the air on KVL on a Saturday, and he's from Canada, of course, and he starts to lie about health care and all those things. Most people in Canada would not give up their health coverage for what we have here in America. You know, not at all. They will not give up their so-called socialized medicine for what we have here in America, because here in America, our high health costs has caused our automobile companies to have to pay the health costs of all their employees, and they have to compete against companies like BMW and all them other companies who have national health care in Germany. You know what I mean, Dr. Tillawi? So our car companies can't compete if they're competing with people like Canada and Germany who have socialized medicines, and that's the reason why their cars are about $2,000 cheaper overall than our cars are, because of the fact the government is picking up the health care of the workers. And I want you to comment on that in the fairness doctrine, and thanks very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, before I comment on the, let's talk about the market here that we have, and I'm sure the same story. See, the fairness doctrine, Reagan done away with that. He did away with the fairness doctrine. What the fairness doctrine said is, if you are a radio station beaming out to the public, that you are to have some kind of balance. And I guarantee you, even before Reagan ended that, we did not have balance, but we did have a couple of shows that would bring you a different point of view from the neocon, Zionist, Jewish opinion that you hear on these stations. KPL will show you, will give you like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and O'Reilly, which I felt they were very bad, very, very bad. Misinformation, big time. Idiots, big time. And then KVL, I didn't even know what the call letters for it were or what were on the channel. It took me about 2 days to figure out where KVL is on the radio. But when I listen to it, they have nothing but morons on it. I don't care if they're local, I don't care if they're national, extremists. That's what they have. Haters, hateful mongers on that. And yes, we do need a fairness doctrine, because let's face it, you are 90% of people, they believe what they hear on the radio. They believe what they hear on television. You are being programmed. And by the way, next week we're probably going to tackle the issue of how you are programmed and how you get to form the opinions you do form. Because I guarantee you, you know these polls that you hear? 85% of people in the United States agreed with George Bush's assessment in 2003 of the Middle East. 85% said, yes, go to war. 85% said, no, you were wrong halfway through. Well, how in the world did they get these good thinking, smart people? We have a lot of smart people. But when it comes to feeding you, it doesn't matter, I don't care if you are a PhD. When they feed you this stuff on Fox Network, when you're in your car and you're listening to stations like KVOL and KPEL, and people listening to us throughout the world. If you are in the United States, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you are blessed to be in a bigger city, you might have a couple of stations who will show you the other side. But in many markets in the United States, it's one way and one way only. And these people on right-wing radio, they tell you, oh no, Obama is going to shut us down. He's not going to shut them down, but he's going to say, and I hope he will bring it back, he's going to say, let's hear the other opinion. Wouldn't you want to hear the other opinion? If you had people telling you what was going on, just like we were. By the way, you are blessed here in Lafayette, because we come to you through AOC, through the People's Network, because this is a true People's Network. Of course, on this network you hear our views, you hear other views that are totally opposite of what we're saying, but at least you are able to hear two views, and you, with your brain, get it, crank it up, and you will decide. All right. Looks like how much time we have left, because I do need to get into the other 20? All right. Well, let's go to line 1 with Dustin on line 1. Dustin?
Dusty, D-U-S-T-Y.
Okay, they wrote Dustin. Okay, Dusty.
Dusty, okay.
Welcome to the program, sir. You're on?
Hesham?
Yes, you're on the air.
I had just caught part of the show last week,
Okay.
and I missed part of what you were saying where that $500 billion had left the country to mainly, like most of it went to 3 Israeli banks.
Now, there was a report on Bloomberg by Linda Sadler, I think, who mentioned the $40 billion or $400 billion that disappeared from Lehman Brothers Bank. And it was like almost overnight because they, on September 15, they had filed for bankruptcy, but September 10th, they showed like $600 and some billion in assets, and they only had like $100 and some billion in assets on the 15th, and on the 19th, when they actually did the bankruptcy on September 19th, they had something like $54 billion.
Wow.
And there were reports on the internet saying that 3 main Israeli banks, they received a lot of money.
Wow.
And by the way, if you really see where the strongest banks, now every bank in the world is having a problem except Israeli banks. They're not having problems. And it just makes you wonder why they're not having problems.
Yes, sir. Wow.
Thanks for your call.
I missed that part of it. I had seen the part where they said, that they were talking with the congressman, and that congressman that you had on, his name starts with a K.
Kondrowski from Pennsylvania.
And
Paul
they were
Kondrowski.
telling them that they were going to have like $2 trillion more within 24 hours.
$5 trillion.
Oh.
Now you have to understand, the money market is the blood of our country. You see, we have a lot of money, but it's in assets, like maybe in homes, in factories, in machinery. But when you, as a factory or a business owner or a home owner, want to actually get a loan from the bank, banks, they deal, you have to go, that money is going to have to come from money that's available, which is short-term money. It could be cash, or it could be short-term papers. Yeah. That you buy. Maybe it comes, due in a week, in a month, but that's what the short term plus the cash, that's what money market is.
Yeah.
And we have probably about $5 trillion, $6 trillion of that. So when you have, if they let it go, probably about $5 trillion would have traded, and it would have been a disaster all over the world. It would have been a disaster. And you see, at that time, they told them, look, they went to Congress, and Congressman Brad Sherman of California, he told us at that time, he said, they came and threatened us that tomorrow you're going to have martial law on the streets of America if you do not sign for this bailout. Because if you remember, the first time it came through, it did not pass. A week later, it did pass, because they told him, look, this is what we have. This is the story we have. You got to do this bailout. And why did they give the money to the banks? Because banks with money markets, banks who lost all that money, need to replenish their stocks. Just like if you have a small grocery store and you go in one day and there's nothing in the store, you were robbed. Well, in order for you to stay afloat or stay in business, you need to get some more stock. And if you don't have that stock, somebody's going to pay you to get this stock. Probably some of your vendors will bring it in and say, hey, look, pay us when you sell this stuff, but you're going to have to replenish your stock for you to stay in business. And banks, if banks fail, this country is destroyed, because our economy depends 100%, not 90%, 100% on the banks. If banks fail, we're doomed. Thank you, Dusty. We have a lot of people waiting. I appreciate the call. Thanks.
Hesham, thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, let's go to line 3 with Todd. Todd.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hi, this is the Little Fish. How are you?
Pretty good.
This is Todd C. Elliott with 1330 KBOL.
Welcome to the program, Todd.
1330 KBOL. I was taking some issue with some things you said about KVL and radio stations like that.
Okay.
But what is the difference between what we've done on KVOL or any local radio station or right-wing radio and what you're doing?
I'll tell you what. That's an excellent
People
question.
call in and give their opinions all the time.
Sure. That's an excellent question, Todd, and I'm really glad that you called. I'll tell you the difference. Do you know how many people watching AOC right now? I have 1 hour. I have 1 hour.
Listening to the radio right now either.
Well, Todd, let me just. I'm going to give you all the time. I'm glad you called.
I'll tell you one difference. I actually have a face for TV. You have
sorry?
a face for radio.
I'm sorry. What did he say? Todd, are you still with me?
I said I actually have a face for TV, and you have a face for radio.
Okay, well, listen, AOC is a public TV station. You can...
No, but people call into my show with their opinions just like yours. I don't tell people how to think or feel.
So I don't tell people how to think and feel either. I don't think people have to feel anything. But you know what? Let this be a debate on why the fairness doctrine is really needed. Because you guys are on 24 hours with nothing but the Savage and the Sean Hannitys and the Rush Limbaughs and alike. 24 hours a day. Every time they turn into KVOL, they're listening to that one opinion.
Tried Air America. Air America was a failure.
What about Clear Channel? What about the Fox Network? What about all these channels?
Clear Channel's not doing so well right now.
But
when you have
the point, I mean, I don't
local radio, I feel as if I've actually been taken off the air because the station manager voted for Obama. And, you know, I think it's part of an agenda to censor free speech in small markets.
They're not going to censor it. It's part of whose agenda?
I'm not on the air anymore, am I?
Are you? Yeah, you are on the air, of course.
I was somewhat controversial, just like you. I'm not on the air anymore. I've been taken off the air.
Oh, you've been taken off the air, so you're not with KVOL anymore.
I show with you. What do you think?
Hey, that's an idea, Todd, that I'll probably need. Hey, since you do have a face for television, maybe you will add a little pizzazz to the program.
Yeah.
Hey, we might be. I guess we might be popular.
We could be the next Hannity and Combs.
There you go.
To be Combs.
Give me a call off there. All right. Now, he did say it was Todd with 1330 KVOL, and then he said he was taken off the air. I don't know if he was taken off the air because I think it was the guy that probably interviewed me one time. I don't know if it was him or not. But nice guy. And the fairness doctrine, I think, you know, he said, well, you're here saying your opinion, I'm there saying my opinion. Yeah, but the difference is we're here 1 hour on AOC. Not to say that AOC is not being watched. I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen. People watch AOC in 7 parishes. The reason I know? Nowhere I go in this town, it doesn't matter, north side, south side, west side, it doesn't matter where I go, people recognize me and people support this show. Believe it or not, many people support what we do. Liberty on line 2. Welcome to the program, Liberty. Liberty's not there. Liberty is here.
Sorry, that line.
All right, we don't have Liberty. So let's go ahead and get that cranked up. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to have time to go through that, the next segment, because we're just going to have to probably leave it until next week. But what I was going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll take your calls, but I do need to mention something to you. We did bring you the story of Richard Williamson, Bishop Richard Williamson, and what happened to him. We did play the interview that Swedish television played with him back in November, and when he said that there were no gas chambers, that's because his research that he did, there was no gas chambers in Germany, and he got a lot of heat because of that. He was ejected actually yesterday from Argentina. They kicked him out. He lost his job at St. Pius X Seminary, and he was the head of that in Argentina, and he went to England yesterday. Basically, he's wanted in Germany because the filming took place in Germany, and they want him in Germany because he said that it was not, there were no, like, it was his opinion about the Holocaust. But you know what I want to do? I do want to go ahead and set that up. We will do just the first segment because I do want to show you what an Israeli television station did to Jesus and his mother. And it's okay, nobody's asking for them to be arrested. No one is asking the Israeli government to actually do anything, kick this guy off the air, close the station. No one. Let's play that if you have that one ready, because it's very important, and we're going to play it next week and go in details about this, but let's go ahead and play it.
להכחיש את הנצרות. נכון? לא צוחק, אני לא צוחק, מישהו צריך ללמד אותם לקח. זה מה שאנחנו עושים כאן עכשיו. מדי ערב אנחנו מכחישים כל מיני דברים שהכנסייה הנוצרית אומרת לכם. אתה זוכר, אתמול הכחשנו את זה שישו הלך על המים? נכון. הנה הסרט השני.
הנוצרים מספרים לכם שמריה, אמו של ישו, הייתה בתולה. אבל זה לא נכון. ההוכחה לכך היא פשוטה. כשיוחנן המטביל היה תוקע לה במפתיע שתי אצבעות במותניים, מריה לא הייתה קופצת. חוץ מזה, אם מריה באמת הייתה בתולה, היא לא הייתה מחנקת שבגיל 15 מריה נכנסה להיריון מחבר לכיתה, והוריה רצו למסור אותה למנזר. אבל היות שישו עוד לא נולד, ולא הייתה נצרות, לא היה גם מנזר.
Let's go ahead and stop it. We're going to show the whole thing. Okay. We're going to show you the whole thing next week, and we will go in details. The reason we wanted to bring this up, because this is a television station, one of the main stations in Israel, making fun of Jesus and his mother. We did not show some of the stuff they showed because we could not show it on this station, or basically any station. I would not send it into people's homes, what they showed and what they said. Next week, we're going to show you more of what took place. That Mary was not virgin, that Jesus did not walk on water, that she slipped around. Now, can anyone tell me where is the outrage? But a bishop, a Catholic bishop says, look, my information tells me that there's no proof of gas chambers. Let's assume he's wrong. But you know what happened to him? He's been destroyed. A bishop that had given all his life to the service of people and God, he's out. Because you have over 100 Jewish leaders, American Jewish leaders, went to the Pope a couple of weeks ago and forced the Pope to do something. Today, Bishop Richard Williamson, we're going to talk about this next week too, in details. Bishop Richard Williamson, he did put out a statement, and this is what he said. He said, the Holy Father and my superior, Bishop Bernard Felle, have requested that I reconsider the remarks I made on Swedish television 4 months ago, because their consequences have been so heavy. So somebody says that there were no gas chambers. It was his opinion. And he said, if you have the proof, show me. Prove it to me. Let's say he's wrong, but he's been destroyed. So that's not a freedom of speech, but yet the Israeli television insulting more than a billion Catholics and more than a billion Muslims, because to Muslims, the Virgin Mary, the Blessed Mother, is extremely important. Every time Muslims say Mary or Maryam, they will say peace be upon her. Every time they say Jesus or Isa, peace be upon him. They're insulting two main religions in the world. Over 2.5 billion people out there. And no, you don't see any outrage out there. But yet, a bishop who says, prove to me, he's destroyed, he's been wanting in Germany now, he will go to jail if he is arrested and sent to Germany. This is what he said. He said, observing these consequences, I can truthfully say that I regret having made such remarks, and that if I had known beforehand the full harm and hurt to which they would give rise, especially to the church, but also to survivors and relatives of victims of injustice under the Third Reich, I would not have made them. He didn't say he recant. He didn't say what he said was wrong. He said, I apologize if I knew what was wrong. If I knew this was going to take place, I would not have said it. If I knew that the horrible, horrible circumstance that I was going to put the church and the Holy Father in, I would not have said it. But he still believes it. And actually they asked him at the airport, do you still believe in what you said? And he said yes. Now the man standing up for what he believes in. But we destroy a man for what he says. But for what over 2.5 billion people in the world believe in the virgin birth of Jesus, those insult them. It's okay to insult them. Let's go to Liberty on line 1. Liberty, you're up.
Hey.
Hi.
Just a quick shout out. Keep on doing what you're doing because you're doing the right thing. And to call Todd Joel Elliott down in regards to the hatred. He's also contacting and syndicated on 98.1 spreading this hatred. I look at him as an opportunist utilizing this little market as a stepping stone. And there is a fairness in the doctrine. I mean, it's palpable.
Hey, Liberty.
Yes.
Do I have a television face?
You're very handsome, intelligent.
Okay. Well, he said I don't have a television face.
It's your heart that makes the person. Yes, you do. You have a wonderful voice. My brother-in-law is a program director in a large market, so it's not as though I'm not familiar with numbers and programming with radio. However, I am against monopoly in the antitrust. When News Corp owns, Rupert Murdoch owns all that it owns, as well as you name the corporations. Of course, newspapers, they're hemorrhaging because everybody's going to the high tech. They're going to the internet.
Right.
Now, what I do want to ask of you in the future is if you would possibly be able to contact one of the 650,000 in Israel, well, Bethlehem. It's 650,000 Israelis and Arab teens and college kids that want peace. And Sir Paul McCartney met with them personally.
Yeah. You know, Liberty, there are a lot of people in Palestine and Israel who want peace. And you see, Jews and Arabs, they lived together many times for thousands of years in peace and harmony. Unfortunately, what is happening in Israel now with the election of this new government and for actually Benjamin Netanyahu being asked to be the prime minister and having Avigdor Lieberman, a man who is so extreme. I mean, you can't get, if he's a little bit more extremist, he will fall off the cliff, actually. It's
I was
sad.
pulling for Libby, being a former Mossad and an attorney.
Well, I mean, Tzibi Livni,
to get Golan Heights in return and try to do the right thing.
Well, Tzibi Livni, you see the problem with Israeli politics now, it's on the right 100%. Even Tzibi Livni, you know, Kadima, actually it's an offspring of the Likud. They got few people from labor and they made the Kadima party, but Kadima, Likud, and all this, it's unfortunately the Israelis are not making the right decisions, which they don't want to be part of this world. They want to have their own world, or they want to be controlling this world. So,
well, it's been more than 4 decades when they attacked our USS Liberty and killed over 40 of our sailors intentionally with our American flag on our naval ship. That's when they started kicking us around like a dog, and then they didn't want Paul McCartney to go in because he's a bad influence, and he went anyways finally. And he went into Gaza. He's wanting 2 separate nations. He's wanting peace. He wants to put an end to it, but he did meet with the group of college in 30-somethings.
I know you need to wrap. Yeah, we are completely out of time.
Keep on doing what you're doing. You got a beautiful heart, and I'm praying for you. And
Thank you.
We can all work it together and work it out.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your call. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we only have 1 minute to go, and actually, you know, time flies by so fast when you're having fun. And we will be back next Saturday. No, I keep, you know, on my radio show on Saturday, I say next Thursday. But I keep getting those two confused. So we'll be back next Thursday. We only have half a minute left. So I'll say good night go do the right thing, and the economy, ladies and gentlemen, the economy is going to be bad, unfortunately. That's all I can say for hold on to your money. And there's this little guy who's going to look in there and say good night. Say good night. Good night. Good night. All right. Next time you need to come on this side, because you will see they'll see you better on that side.
The views and opinions expressed